Obviously, a lot of good things came out of Saturday. One of the things that we talked about doing was being able to take the current team that we're in and onto the past and try to move it forward. And I thought our guys put in a good week of prep, and to see it materialize on Saturday was really good. Came out pretty healthy. I know you guys will ask that question. So really nobody that went over there with us was affected in a way. Josh McCray continues to go forward. I know he did really well on Sunday. Yesterday, the doctors were upbeat. I meet with the doctors every Sunday, and I hadn't seen Josh because he didn't make the trip, but they were happy with where his running was on Sunday. So we'll wait and see where that goes. It's going in the right direction. I know he's excited, but we want to make sure we think Josh's got a very bright career for not only this time in front of us, but in the future. So we'll see where that is. It's in the doctor's hands and Josh's recovery. A couple things that jumped out to me. So we award our guys MVPs and do it really in all three phases: offense, defense, and also look team. And the guys that win it on look team are a lot of times guys that I think their aspiration wasn't to come to Illinois and become a look team MVP, right? But Jordan Anderson was on offense, and I thought during the course of the week last week, the things he showed during practice really get me excited about what he can be down the future, right? A guy like Luke Zardzin was a non-scholarship player that comes in and proves every day that he probably can eventually play at this level and do some really good things. Owen Anderson on offense as well. There's just a lot of players. So you see guys getting better, but we gave Palcho, we gave 4 or 5 guys, I think Pat Bryant, Isaiah, Palcho, Tommy, and Chase were our offensive MVPs. But when I was watching the film, I thought Palcho probably played the most complete football game since we've been here, right? And a year ago when we made a request to the NCAA to get him waivered to play with us this year, I know it was a big deal, but it was a big deal for me for one reason, because I thought we could take his level of play to a different level. He's had the most career starts in college football probably when it's all said and done, but I really thought because we didn't have that first year with him in a development phase through winter conditioning and through the spring and during the summer because of his injury, we could maybe take him to a different level of play, and that's exactly what's happened. But playing right next to him is a guy by the name of Zy Chrysler, right? And Zy didn't join us till January, and he played his best game on Saturday. Really challenged him during the course of the week. He's very athletic, very strong, very good football IQ, but it was a guy that I thought, through 4 games had just kind of, stayed at status quo. I thought he could take it to another level, and for him to do what he did on Saturday, it gets you really excited. I think another great indication of what's happening in our program, maybe not from news articles or for everybody to get excited about on the outside world, but for me as a head coach, there's all kinds of those little things going on. It affects recruiting, so I can call a transfer guard and talk about a guy that I got in January. We took him from 360 to 330, and he's playing in a way that a year from now he's probably going to have to make an NFL college decision, right? It affects us because in this new world of NIL, the things that are being afforded to our offensive and defensive linemen that are here on campus, and that I can go then into a recruit and say, hey, I can't promise you this, but this is what our players are currently getting, a $12,000 here or a $5,000 deal there. It's like very, very positive things that just continue to help our program in so many ways. When you win games, good things happen. So the byproduct of that is there's excitement, right? I met with Bret every day about, opportunities for media, and it's just steadily increased from that first week to where we are today. To now you got to start saying no, and it's my job as a head coach to teach our guys, with success brings, people that want to be around you, they want to talk to you. But also because of that, there's a cousin that creeps in this world called complacency, right? And you just think these things are going to happen. And that brings victims out of all of us, right? So with our coaches, our players, anybody in that Smith Center, that's our big challenge. And the other big challenge, I know we've been engaged, I'm sure you've seen that on social media. For the first time in my career here at Illinois, we've won a couple games back-to-back, several games in a row here in Memorial Stadium, dating back last year to Northwestern. 6:30 game, I think it's only the third time since 2014 or over the last 14 years, whatever it was, that there's going to be a night game, Big Ten night game here in Memorial Stadium. So a lot of reasons to get excited, and I would really encourage people, if you haven't bought a ticket yet, if you're thinking about it, bring a friend, bring a buddy, bring a couple buddies, bring a bus, I don't care, show up and let's be loud on Saturday, because I think it's going to be a great environment of college football. So with that, open up for questions.
Coach, some of the...
expecting the long term with Pat, do you think Pat Bryant be able to go?
Oh, yeah, Pat. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Pat could go on Saturday. I think he realized when we were up 24 points, the opportunities for the throw game was probably significantly decreased, and made an executive decision to pop out. He was very gifted in dance moves in the locker room, I saw. So that's when I grabbed him. I said, "How you feeling?" He goes, "Oh, I'm fine, Coach." I go, "Okay." Yeah, so I could have answered that same question on the presser afterwards.
Coach, a lot of games you go into, you don't know what the opponent's going to do. And that's usually not true with Iowa.
Yeah.
Are there unique things about facing a team that has such an established identity?
You know, it's something to think about, just the longevity, right? So I wasn't really recruited by Hayden Fry, but I like to say that, right? So I arrived on campus as a walk-on when Hayden Fry was there. And to think about since the day I arrived there, I believe in the spring of 1987, to where we are now in 2022, there's only been 2 head coaches, right? And Coach Fry did a lot of great things. I was with him, and then I was able to be with Kirk and Phil Parker, the defensive coordinator. He and I sat in that defensive meeting room over on the side. Norm Parker was across from us. Ron Aiken was in there. There's a guy by the name of Rob Smith, who's now the defensive coordinator at Duke. We sat in there and pieced that defense together and built it because it was unlike anything they had done there before. So I really owe a lot of my defensive education to those initial couple of years with Kirk at Iowa with Norm Parker. And Phil has just continued to build that same defense layer after layer after layer. So yeah, Coach Lane and I were watching film this morning. There's a lot of carryover that goes on offensively. Obviously, Brian has a lot of the same values that his father has and what they do offensively. Special teams, LeVar Woods. I recruited LeVar Woods, or helped recruit LeVar Woods out of northwest corner of Iowa a long time ago when I was an assistant there. So those guys have been in place doing the things they do. But every week is a game change, game plan opportunity for everybody. And the DNA might be there, but the look may change week to week, and we got to be ready for that.
Coach, I know last week your big message was this is about Illinois football, not a return. We've had a couple days to reflect on, the win, and going into Wisconsin and taking them down. How do you feel? What's going through your head?
Wisconsin's behind us, right? Obviously, I understand the news that happened. Reached out to Paul this morning, had a conversation with him, and just probably a realization in today's world of college football. You never truly know the moment that you're living in. But for us, we really turned the page on Wisconsin yesterday, and that includes me. I did share with the team last night. Everybody wants to make a big deal of my history at Wisconsin. I probably have more history at Iowa, right? I was a player there. I was a graduate assistant there. I got my first coaching job there. I was part of 2 staffs there. I was part of the staff that's there now. I think I probably actually have a little bit more history because it's a little bit different look at Iowa, but that doesn't factor into anything. I got the tattoo, right? The famous tattoo. A hell of an idea when you're 19, so that's just part of it. I think our guys were into the moment, but I quickly asked them to turn the page yesterday. We specifically put the game to bed, offense, defense, special teams. We had a team meeting on the front end that I talked about the game that we played. We watched the film, we came back in, and then I introduced the Iowa schedule and what we're going to do this week. And then we went into a meeting, offense, defense, special teams about Iowa. Then we had our victory meal, and then today they have it off, and tomorrow we'll jump into our on-the-field preparation. So I get the question, but it's really not any different.
Bret, you seem to take pride in developing coaches to be head coaches. And Ryan's obviously being mentioned, given what you guys are doing. So why is that a source of pride for you, and how do you try to help prepare them?
Yeah, when I took over my first job as a head coach, Bill Snyder actually had one of the great messages to me. I talked to everybody, right? Coach Ferentz called me that day. Coach Fry called me that day. I was obviously with Coach Alvarez. And one of the things Coach Snyder said to me, he said, what you want to do is go out and try to hire as many guys like you as you can. They may not look like you, may not talk like you, they may not have your background, your history, and your pedigree, but you want to hire as many people that want to be head coaches as you can. And that has always stuck with me. So on my first staff, I had obviously Paul Christ, who became a head coach. I had Charlie Partridge, who became a head coach. I had Dave Dorn, who became a head coach. I had Chris Ash, who a year later, who eventually became a head coach. There's a couple guys that I think are off that original staff that still have a chance to do it. And then when I came here, after being around Ryan for a very short amount of time, I knew he would get a head coaching job. It's just a matter of when. So I constantly bring him in. I think Josh, as an athletic director, we both agreed, like, hey, let's do everything we can to keep him here as long as we can, but also let's prepare him so when that moment comes, he can have success. Barry Lunny will be a head coach. I truly believe that George McDonald and Kevin Kane, Aaron Henry. There's several guys I believe in our building that will eventually be head coaches at some point. It's just you can tell those things usually a lot by how they coach and how they educate their players, but also how they treat and understand the big picture, how they handle the media, their personalities, their demeanor, their dynamics. But Ryan, the good thing about Ryan, I think he's one of the most patient people I've ever been around, from the way he calls the defense to the way he manages and handles his family. Just a really, truly exceptional person that when those moments come, they'll be great.
Why do you think he'll make a good coach eventually? Whenever that
I think he understands people. He's able to, I always say this, like he's an ambidextrous recruiter. Like you can send Ryan into, LA, you could send him into Miami, you could send him into Chicago, you could send him into Kankakee, Illinois, you could send him into Boston, Massachusetts, and he's going to be the same guy in every one of those homes that people are attracted to and want to be around. He has a very quiet confidence. I think when people come in and have to be loud to show that they're confident, that's usually false, and it's usually something that can be seen through. So I just think he carries a lot of the characteristics in the right environment to be successful.
Bret, you used the term rebirth for what's happening for Tommy here at Illinois on Saturday. I'm curious, in the preseason, when you got him, was there an emphasis about trying to make football fun for him again? And just after everything that happened to him at Syracuse and the punishment he took?
Yeah. I would say it probably is a grassroots of what you just said, right? Like, I don't know if it was 86 or 96. It was a big number that he got knocked down during his last couple of years at Syracuse. And I don't care if you're a WWE wrestler. Nobody likes to get knocked down 86 times, right? Like, that's just not fun. So there was an emphasis on keeping him clean, making him play on his feet. He's definitely a fun guy, right, man? Like, I walked outside the stadium in Madison and said hello to some of my family, and I saw his dad. His dad came running right over, and he goes, "We're on to Illinois." I said, "Absolutely, Tom. Right, we're on to Illinois." Like instantaneous, like that. Got a hug from his mom. They're just really warm people, and raised a great kid. I think we're scratching the surface where we're at. Barry and I had a great conversation yesterday about our offense, just kind of where it's at, but I kept encouraging him to just continue to be him, right? Because Coach Lunny he's only in the 5th week of this thing, right? And he's continuing to understand what his tools are, what people do well, understand our defenses, what works well against them, the defenses that we're going to face. So it's really an exciting time to be around our offense and Tommy in general.
Ryan just told us that there's a lot of, not quoting directly, but wants to see improvement defensively. Yeah. What is improvement like for this defense?
For the defense?
Yeah.
Well, first series, right? I think our guys, when that first series got done, I might have said this the other day, I always, as a head coach, one of the advantage points I have is just geography. I get to watch my coaches watch my coaches work, and then I get to watch the reaction of those players who are working with them. And when a coach walks away, he may be heading that direction, look that way, and his player's looking right at him, and the player will do one of 3 things. He'll kind of either roll his eyes, or just kind of like give it a heads, or he might give it another expression, right? Like, I watch those things to see how well they're taking the coaching they're being given. And our kids, it's like they're at a Golden Corral 24/7. They just want to eat, man. They just they love the knowledge. They know that anything that they've been given to them. Just a little thing. It's not a little thing. It's a huge thing. Taz made a nice little corner edge pressure blitz that took the running back, I think, a little bit by surprise. And if you truly look at that play, a lot of times you can tell where corner blitzes are coming from because of a tip. And there is no tip. There's no tell. There's no. And I believe Taz is a very intelligent football player, but he was coached to do that, right? And the thing that I think gets lost in the shuffle, and everybody wants to give, and believe me, Ryan Walters deserves all the credit in the world. But our players are playing at a high level because they're taking coaching and they're applying it to the practice field. And when they apply it to the practice field, practice habits become game day reality, and game day reality gives you game day results, and game day results are what we're looking for. And that there's a lot of that going on in our building right now on defense for sure, but also in all 3 phases.
Coach, you got a
Chattanooga game when Chase set a record with 5th straight 100-yard rushing game. That's just what you do.
Yeah.
So, that's probably. I mean, he did it again.
Yeah.
Was there an indication, like when you first got here, maybe first, they watched on film or found out about him, was like he could be that guy?
I didn't watch one stitch of film on our players when I got here. I didn't watch one. I didn't, you know, I'd watch some clips just to, you know, when Josh called, just to kind of find out where we were at. But I made a very conscientious decision that I wanted to view and grade our players off of what I saw, all right, when I started working with them, because I didn't know how they've been coached. I didn't know if they've been told how to play through a whistle. I didn't know if they've been told how to break out of a quick turn. I didn't know if they've been taught how to fire off the ball with low hips, like all the things that you look for. So I constantly didn't do that. But I would say during winter conditioning, I saw him break, I saw him accelerate. In spring football, I saw him run. I knew he didn't quite understand the tempo of a running back. I knew that takes a little bit of time. So the pieces were all there. But yeah, the expectation, I find it incredibly at times humorous, but also very frustrating because when I heard the stat about number of 100-yard rushers, or when he got his 1,000 yards, what number that broke, or the record that it broke, and I'm like, man, I fought a lot of bed and did this in the past, right? Like this is what we have to do. This is our expectation, and I was very excited to beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin, but it's really, you know, it wasn't a ranked opponent. There weren't two ranked teams on the football field. There wasn't. It was two good teams that, you know, fought it out and battled it out, but we came here to be ranked. We came here to win championships. We came here to play at the highest level, and everybody's making a big deal. I got mad last year, kind of in retrospect, after that Nebraska game, the way we won at the beginning. I was excited for everybody, but I didn't realize everybody lost their mind, right? And they just thought it was going to happen. So then we made our way back, and then we beat Penn State, we beat Minnesota, and everybody's freaking out. Like, that should be what we expect, right? So in our building, we expect it as football players, we expect it as football coaches, and then in our athletic department, hopefully they expect us to win games, go to bowl games, sell out that stadium, do all the things. That's got to be the standard. That's got to be the expectation, not the exception, right? There's a huge difference. And until we win more consistently over a course of time, that's the fight that I'm always trying to get through, is to understand this is what we're expecting to do. This isn't just kind of by luck, or this isn't just a short-term thing. This is what we expect to happen.
Barry said halftime Saturday, Chase obviously didn't
Yeah.
done much, but he was still awfully confident that it was going to happen. Just has that always been kind of what you've seen from
Yeah,
him?
so at halftime, I kind of said to the defense, keep doing what you're doing. It's a 0-0 game. Let's just, you know, on defense, let's make sure we don't let one go over our heads. You know, they're going to play action fake us. They're going to do something, continue to play against the run. And offense, I said, hey, just keep chopping wood, right? Like you guys, there was a couple plays I saw from behind. I always try to watch the offense from behind. I always try to watch the defense from in front. But from behind, I could see he was like literally like he could have pulled his foot through on one tackle. Like he just barely got him. There was so many plays were about ready to let him break. And then I literally remember being on the headset when that play happened. I knew the play. I saw the pullers come. And when he got through that first level, I just said, he gone, right? And then somebody said, that, you know, there's a backside safety pursuit. I'm like, no, he gone. Like I knew no one was going to catch him because he'd been kind of anticipating that break.
The fact that you got votes this week in the vote poll, that's not a big deal to you now?
I didn't even know we got votes. Sort of goodness.
Sorry.
No, that's awesome. Some people have been asking me, do you think you expect ranked? And I said no, but I did say I thought we would get some recognition. But you know, we haven't played a ranked opponent in this level. We're obviously a team that this week has got a tremendous challenge in front of us. Obviously, Iowa isn't ranked either, and I'm sure Kirk isn't. You know, he's used to being ranked and up there in the middle of it as well. So we're kind of finding our way. I'm excited for that. That's a good indication. We've been trying to talk to our players about getting respect, right? And you get respect one day at a time. But if people are starting to respect us, that's a great thing. But we obviously got a long way to go.
You mentioned that.
Go back to Coach Chris. That's happened now 5 times today in the Power 5. Coaches getting fired mid-season. Besides the personal relationship, how do you feel about that whole thing?
Well, it's a great reminder, right? Like the reason I call Paul is I've been in that rodeo, right? Like I've been fired. I've been in that day after. I shot him an early text, and thankfully we crossed, and just want to let him know what I learned through that experience. I remember I appreciated the calls that I got that day. But it's a grim reminder of the world we live in. You know, however it came about, I think it reminds me, like, you know, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, right? Until I feel someone is not allowing our program to be great, that's when I have a problem, right? And I told guys when I took the job, listen, the guy you saw at Wisconsin, the guy that you were with at Arkansas has learned, right, like what brought failure. And when I see that, I'm not going to tolerate it. I don't care. You know, in that building, in the Smith Center, I've transitioned out of some people that were here for a long time that I knew didn't know the path that we needed to be on, and I would do it again 100 times over because I knew where we could go, right? And sometimes those decisions aren't easy. Those are very, very hard things to do. As a head coach, you have to make hard decisions every day. But when you make them and they go the way that you know they're going to go, you feel so much better on the back end because you saved a lot of other people a lot of adversity, right? And I had a coach grab me yesterday that's in our building, and right, he made reference of where we are right now versus where we were a year ago, and if we hadn't made change, what that would be, right? But I see the way our players are equipped, I made changes there, right? I see the way that we have operations, I made changes there. Anything that touches our program, from the way we arrive at the stadium in a semi-truck, to the way that we travel, to the way that we perform on the football field, that's all touching our players, and I feel that's my responsibility. And that's why you got to be able to make hard decisions.
You mentioned that the more Coach Loney gets to know his personnel and what their capabilities are, the more he's able to pull out of them on the field. Could you expand on that a little bit, how it's kind of manifested itself on the field?
Yeah, so you guys go back 2 weeks ago after the Chattanooga game, Isaiah Williams said something to me that was very telling, right? He was asked a question about Barry Loney's offense, and Coach Isaiah, who's a very intelligent player, said he's always looking to put us in a position to have success. He's always looking for ways to get us the ball and be creative in the way he does it. It's never the same. You know, if you look at us on offensive film, like we're a very unique preparation in this conference. There's so many things that, you know, I'm sure it gets glossed over, but I think we were the seventh we're rated seventh in the country in time of possession with a hurry-up offense. Do the math on that, right? You have to really, truly understand what Barry's offense is and what we're trying to do and the balance that we can have in the running game. I knew that we would just keep leaning on them Saturday, leaning on them, and then we'd break one, you know. And we got the ball on a perimeter in a hurry. Just little things here and there that, you know, excite you. Like he would be the first to tell you, we had to call 2 timeouts in the fourth quarter, and he's apologizing profusely because he's like, I got caught up in a moment, I didn't get the right call. I'm like, hey, we're okay. We're up 24 points. We're good. We can use these timeouts in the most effective manner possible. So he's a very hungry person. Again, the pedigree that he comes from, like a lot of you don't know his dad, like his dad is truly one of the best high school coaches that ever walked the state of Arkansas, like really just a very exceptional coach that raised a really good kid, and the byproduct of it is the one that we're getting right now.
Are there parallels between where Coach Loney is at this year and where Coach Walters was out this time last year?
Yeah, so one of the advantages I have as a head coach is you grow from your experiences, right? And I know as a coordinator, when I became the coordinator at Wisconsin, you know, we had some success early on. I believe they were in the high 80s ranked defense, and we began to do things well, but it was like that third or fourth game. We played Purdue about midway through the year, and they were everything back then. And we notched them up. They got a little bit of activity in the second half, but I thought that was when, it was about midway through the season when our guys like, oh, hey, coach knows what he's doing here, right? And it took a while because I was the only new coordinator, I was the only new coach in that defensive room, and I had to teach all those other coaches my system. And I see that now with Barry. You know, he's just continued to work with our coaches. Every time I go by, he's either in a meeting room with the coaches in the run game, the coaches in the throw game, or the coaches in all of them in there together. Players are always swinging by his office. He's a very good resource. One more?
Yeah, one more.
Bret, we saw Fabrizio out there on Saturday. Is Caleb healthy, Griffin?
Yeah.
Kickoffs?
Yeah, he kicked off. I'm sorry, he did all the field goals and PATs, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's.
Is that performance based with Caleb for kickoffs?
No. You know, the part that I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, he got a little bit sore in a lower leg injury, and so we've been trying to work our way through that. Just felt the best chance for him to be able to help us win, right, and do what he could without putting him in jeopardy of harming it further was to stick it to him on PAT field goals. So he did that, and then Fabrizio and Will handled the kickoffs. Fabrizio started the first 2, didn't go so well. Will popped in there and obviously did very, very well. Caleb is our guy that we'd like to handle both of them, but if he can't, that's will be kind of the same plan this week. Thank you.